Hi, Brandon Monroe here, and you're listening to the Bernie Breakdown. Well, it might be a new week, but once again, the stories everyone is talking about involve stuff not on the racetrack. I'm Brandon Monroe, and alongside me, as always, is Mark Chavez, and joining us tonight is Jeremy Miller. Let's lead off with the first big news story of the week that broke just a couple days ago, and that is NASCAR will be going street racing at Chicago, literally in the city of Chicago next year. I know this is something that not a lot of fans were asking for, and not a lot of fans seem happy about it, but nonetheless, NASCAR has decided to make the move, and let's get your opinions on it first, guys.
Well, in principle, and I've maintained this position since it first leaked that this was probably going to happen. A street course felt inevitable. NASCAR has talked about it for a couple years now. They're going to try it somewhere, and I don't have a problem with trying new things as long as if it doesn't work, we're willing to put it in the can and move on. And Chicago makes a lot of sense. It's the biggest market that there is in a race in, although that is NASCAR's fault. Although you could argue again that Chicagoland was probably too far out of the city for it to really be in Chicago. It's not like Fontana and Los Angeles, where there is a lot of stuff between Los Angeles and Fontana. I don't know if there's any actual part where there's not another city in between. Whereas between Chicagoland and Chicago, there is a lot of nothing. My issue is Road America losing the date for it. And I guess, honestly, the second issue is I don't think this should be the July 4th race. Even if Road America was still going to lose the date, this should not be where we're going for July 4th weekend. But Road America losing the date is my bigger problem. The fans packed the place out. Racing wasn't great, but I mean, it wasn't anything that I felt was really unexpected as long as you actually sat there and actually watched the Xfinity race and didn't just watch the highlights every year. And it just really sucks that they pack out the stands and the campground, the whole thing, 2 years in a row, and they lose a date after it.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to disagree with that approach. I mean, there's a lot of things on the schedule that could maybe use some changes, and NASCAR's been heading in the direction of a lot more road racing, so I agree it was kind of inevitable that they'd want to try a street course, but it just feels like losing that Road America date is just the wrong direction to go here from the perspective of the sport. I mean, I don't know if we've seen crowds at a NASCAR race as committed, as involved in the race weekend as we've been seeing at Road America these last 2 years, and it just kind of sucks to take that away from them to move a race down into downtown Chicago, which, while I think it will probably be successful, it is a bit of an experiment in a sense. We don't really have anything to compare this to. We don't know what it's going to look like. I mean, Michael Jordan's more involved in the sport now. Obviously, Chicago is most well known for MJ and the Bulls, but how much of a role can that really play in the city's attention that they're gonna, gather towards this race and this event, and see if that can really compare to what NASCAR was able to put together at Road America?
Yeah, I think from just the sheer amount of people that are going to be there, it's going to be deemed successful. I'm with you guys. I'm not really a fan of the move in terms of what they gave up. And I wasn't a huge fan of Road America, but it really sucks when you hear NASCAR, and they've been talking about this for a couple years now, where they're going to put, the tracks on notice. They're going to give them, numbers to hit in terms of the attendance. And if they're not meeting those, there could be repercussions. And you have a track like Road America that's turning out six figures both years that they were there with the Cup Series. And they take the date away. So I don't want to hear NASCAR start talking about we need the attendance figures for you to keep your dates now, because that's just a slap in the face to Road America. On top of that, the move in general, I get it, and I think the best argument for this is you're bringing the race to the fans in the city. It kind of reminds me of some of the moves they made in the early 2000s where they're trying to capture the casual fan, and that really bit them in the past, which is what I'm worried about. I don't think you're going to have the problems like the people that ran off because they didn't like the playoffs, or the people that said they stopped watching. Whether they did or didn't, that's another story. But the ones that said they stopped watching because they moved the Southern 500 from Labor Day weekend and those types of moves, like, you don't want a repeat of that. And I don't think you're going to have that type of backlash from a move like this. But I've never been a fan of trying to go after the casual fan. It seems like whenever they try to do that, they alienate their core fan base, and that's what causes the core fans that made the sport what it was to kind of drift away, which sucks. I get it though. I think NASCAR right now, they get compared most to baseball in terms of their older demographic. You want to try to get younger people to watch. I think going to a city is probably a good idea. I don't know about Chicago. I just have my questions about that. If they were going to do a street race, personally, I think if they could try to do something down in Miami on the F1 course, because the track layouts seem better, but you already have Homestead in the area, so it's not really a new area per se. You're not really capturing new fans there. So I get Chicago, not my number one choice, but it's kind of, you'll just wait and see how it goes. We got 3 years of it, so we'll see how it is.
I think I would actually straight up hate this move if it was for a street course in Miami. If everything else stayed the same, and this was instead just for a street course in Miami, I think I would actually straight up hate it. I will say there is right now some ambiguity as to whether or not the Xfinity Series will be there next year. Everything just has talked about the Cup date. There is not an Xfinity race in Chicago that weekend, or at all next year. And everything talked about not going back the next year was in reference to the Cup date. And Road America executives seem optimistic that the Cup date could return. I could see one coming back if they were in some kind of weird situation because they didn't want to give up any of their dates, and SMI doesn't want to give up any of their dates, and Road America is an independent track, so you just kind of choose from them to take it from. When we go get the new TV contracts in 2025, if we end up back in Road America, I would not be surprised.
I know, personally, if I was going to mess around with the schedule just because I think it's on the chopping block and it's probably going to happen at some point, I think the fans would hate it because they want more short tracks, but it would make more sense to me if they moved a Richmond date to Chicago. Road America gets to keep its date, and so you're not adding a road course. You just switch the Indy road course back to the Indy Oval. I
think most people have advocated switching the Indy road course back to the Indy Oval. Well, I mean, we don't know what the rest of the schedule looks like, so we'll see what else shakes up from there. But I think it makes sense. Richmond is the track I feel like is pegged to lose the date.
I think that's on the chopping block. I think when we have like the new TV contract, that's probably when it'll happen. Could happen before then, but I'm thinking unless they get some really big turnouts, and even then, we just saw with Road America that doesn't seem to matter. They'll probably be, unfortunately, in position for them to lose one of their dates.
I mean, it's not that surprising. Bowman did win at Richmond, so that's where.
That's a fair point. That's a really fair point, actually. I think we need Bowman to win the Chicago street course race now.
Bowman won at Richmond, and then the next year it lost its
playoff date. Yeah.
And it's been the cutoff or a playoff race, chase race, since the chase existed. So this is the first year it's not either of those.
All right. Hang it down, guys. We need Alex Bowman to win the Chicago street course in like 3 years.
I also did want to just circle back a little on something here regarding Indy going to the Oval. There is no confirmed reports of this, but I've been seeing it online more and more recently that it sounds like part of the reason NASCAR may not be running the Oval there anymore is Roger Penske doesn't want anything other than Indy 500 running that layout, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but if the track's putting them in a bit of binds there and kind of handcuffing them to the road course, I don't know what more of a sport can really do.
No, I mean, that's fair.
That's what I would say.
That's true. That's true. I mean, at this point, it's it's all speculation. But if that was the case, I would say just leave. But it is.
I've heard both. I've heard some reports in the past where Roger wants like the Indy 500 to be the only thing on the Oval, and I've heard reports of him saying, I'd be open to moving stuff around and having NASCAR on the Oval. So I really don't know what to believe. But it's definitely out there. It really depends on who is it coming from, I guess, because I have heard both ends of that. So it wouldn't shock me if that were the case either way.
Roger's an indie guy through and through. I mean, obviously he's involved in all forms of motorsports, but I think IndyCar might be his true passion. I think that's pretty evident in a lot of the ventures of his career. So I could definitely see it being a realistic scenario that he only wants the Indy 500 on the oval.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me, but we'll see. We'll see what the schedule has, on it when it comes out. I'm not expecting any huge changes other than this. Maybe, depending on who you believe, maybe the Indy Road Course goes back to the oval, maybe not. Anything else as of right now would be a surprise, but we'll wait and see. Should be interesting. Probably going to end up coming out within the next, couple months. I'd say probably well before the end of the season, but that's it on the Chicago Street Course. Let's jump over to the other big news story of the week, which we just keep talking about and talking about and talking about, and I'm pretty sure we were on this before anybody else was. But that's Kyle Busch and his contract negotiations with Joe Gibbs Racing seem to have taken another turn for the worst in terms of them re-signing Kyle. Had another report come out the other day. This was from, I believe, TRD's president, David Wilson, and it's not good. Sounds like they're very far apart. We know from Loudon, Kyle did mention that he was talking to other teams already. He did say that in an interview with Bob Pockris. I think we're all on different levels of what's going on here. I think when we were talking about this the other night, Mark, you you had the best reaction to it, so I'll let you go first on it.
Well, I think Kyle Busch is gone. I don't think this kind of news is the story you leak out if you're not fully expecting him to leave. I make literally nothing of the news that Kyle Busch is talking to other teams. NASCAR free agency racing free agency in general, but particularly NASCAR, is very much unlike all the other sports where you don't talk to the other teams till, a certain period. And free agency doesn't exist in NASCAR the way it does. You're just always a free agent. So I would have been shocked, honestly, if Kyle said he had not had any conversations with any other team. So I don't make anything of that. I think that is what it is. But Toyota coming out and effectively saying that we're prepared for Kyle to leave is pretty big news to me. I mean, you could just toe the usual line of, we fully expect to have Kyle on the team, and you could just lie. They lie all the time. So the fact that they're willing to come out and just say that, to me, makes it feel really like Kyle is gone.
It's just hard to really know exactly where this is all going to fall in and really play out. I mean, it's early still. We're not even to the playoffs yet. It's still July, mid-July. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if there was an announcement tomorrow, and it wouldn't shock me if we didn't hear until like December where Kyle Busch is going to be racing tomorrow. You really never know at the sport. I mean, no one was expecting that Tyler Reddick announcement to come out of left field like that for 23XI, and it's a very unpredictable sport. The landscape is always changing. There's obviously a few obvious places he could end up. One of the most popular talking points that we've had is SHR with that 10 car being open. I still personally view that as a really high-end possibility for Kyle right now. It's just, I mean, who knows what he wants to do? I mean, he might not want to drive a Ford. He might not want to drive a Chevy. He might want to drive a Toyota still. I mean, there's really no way to truly know what he wants to do. So it's really just going to be a waiting game, and we kind of just get to all watch it play out and then be like, whoa, that's what happened once it finally happens.
Yeah, I think with Kyle here, this is more than just a driver negotiation too. Toyota has a lot more to lose than Kyle Busch does in this. If you lose Kyle, you're gonna lose KBM. Maybe they work something out. Maybe Kyle sells the team off to Joe Gibbs. Maybe Toyota buys it out. It's going to create what is already a pretty major logjam for that manufacturer in terms of placement of their talent, even worse. That alone, if I'm Toyota, I just write the damn check. You can't lose this guy. It has more to do with a driver. This is like a business partner. This is somebody that helps you, develop talent. There's a lot higher of a price tag on that, in my opinion, than just an ordinary driver here. If I'm Kyle, too, I think that's going to play a role in it. Is Ford going to be willing to give him money to keep running the truck program? Is Chevy? I don't know.
I could see Kyle straight up willing to just close the truck program, to be honest.
That's what I think. I think that's a possibility.
Two kids. He's getting older. I could see him just straight up wanting to close it, and I could see it as 100% pure speculation, but wanting basically to get paid more to stay at JGR because that's what it would take to keep the truck program open.
Mm-hmm. That's a fair point. It's not cheap to run some of these teams. I don't like Brad before he closed his truck team would talk about how much money and it took and how he's normally operating at a loss. So that's a very fair point.
I think Kyle's openly stated that he's operating at a loss as well at points in time. I don't know if it's an overall loss, but I definitely can.
I definitely don't think he makes money from it.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember there's certain races, specifically the dirt races. I remember him. I think it was Eldora when they were still going there. How he said it costs more money just to hang a body for one of these, dirt races than the winner got. So when you show up there with, 2 or 3 trucks, you're taking a loss. There's no question about it. So there are certain races where that's definitely a problem in that series. I think Kyle to Stuart Haas makes the most sense. I think a lot of people are kind of backpedaling on that with the talks that Eric Almirola might be sticking around. If you're Tony Stewart and Gene Haas, if you don't get Kyle Busch because you need to keep Eric Almirola, I'm gonna lose my mind.
I will say the only way that happens is if Smithfield is the one that decides that. If Smithfield decides they want Eric Almirola, if Eric Almirola wants to return and not Kyle Busch, I don't think there's a lot that Stewart or Haas can do, especially because Smithfield also sponsors part of Tony's NHRA team.
That makes me feel like they'd be willing to go with somebody else. And maybe it's not an easy sell, but that sure is a possibility. I think, too, you have Toyota and, JGR trying to find sponsors. Who's to say Stuart Haas can't put something together, a package, where that would work, even if Smithfield's there or not. I think he's probably going to, if he goes there, I think Smithfield's going to be on his car. I have heard a lot of people in the last couple days bring up the 41. I've heard some people try to say Joe Custer said, "Oh, Cole Custer's not, guaranteed a spot in the Cup Series." I have not heard that anywhere. So that I don't know where that's coming from. I mean, that would make more sense because then you just have Haas sponsor the car, and we know Gene likes seeing his car in the winner's circle, and it hasn't happened a lot lately. So does that make a little bit more sense? I would say yes, but
Gene's closer to seeing one of his F1 cars win a race than that 41.
That's actually a fair point. That's a really fair point right now. Like you have, if there's like a wreck at the start of the F1 race, maybe one of those Haas cars could win. If there's a wreck at the start of the Cup race, well, maybe Cole Custer could get a top 10 that day. It's pretty bad right now, but I don't see them moving from Cole Custer. And honestly, now granted, if you're bringing in Kyle Busch, okay, I won't feel that bad. That's probably the right move. But I think Cole Custer, as bad as he's been, deserves another crack at it with a different crew chief.
At the bare minimum.
I would say if we're taking Kyle out of the equation, and let's say Kyle's surfing at SHR, and we're now deciding whether or not we want Eric Almirola or Cole Custer in the 4th car, I actually do think I would lean Cole Custer there, simply from the perspective it's the youth, and I mean, he has shown he has the ability to run well, and even the Cup Series, he's been a hell of a lot better than he's been this year and past seasons. So I think you would give him at least a little bit more time with the team. They need to make a crew chief change. I don't get why it hasn't happened yet.
If it came down to that, I think I'd have to sit down with Eric and say, how long are you willing to stay here?
I'll take Eric for 1 year.
1 year?
I wouldn't.
Mm-hmm. You likely keep Smithfield intact, and there's tons of talent in the lower series right now. That if keeping Eric also can lead to keeping Smithfield after Eric leaves, which, like I said, the fact that they're on Tony's NHRA car feels like that's a possibility. Then I would just take Eric for 1 year over Custer, especially because Custer's not going to go anywhere. Worst case scenario, you put Custer back in the car after Eric retires.
Yeah, after he wins an Xfinity championship.
That is true. I guess that would work.
Yeah, I mean, and Harvick doesn't have a lot of time left either, so there could be 2 seats where you could place him. Because I don't know what's going on there. It definitely sounded like, well, Ryan Preece at the beginning of the year was a name linked to one of these rides. Like, that's really cooled off. I think, honestly, if Kyle doesn't shut the truck team down and he goes to Stuart Haas, you could probably see a potential truck lineup of, like, Ryan Preece and John Hunter Nemechek
Yeah, I was
there
about to say
next
Priest
year.
would basically end up in a John Hunter Nemechek situation with Kyle there,
Yeah.
probably.
I think both of them would, because I don't know what's going on with John Hunter. If he's smart, he'd probably follow Kyle, because
I don't think he's that tied down by Toyota.
well, no,
I don't think he's tied down much.
I think he's honestly like fourth or fifth in line right now for
Mhm.
a cup ride when you factor in Reddick's getting one.
And the most
Obviously, Ty
opportunity they've
Gibbs.
given him is the Sam Hunt car, and even then they barely have given him the Sam Hunt car. So
Yeah, I mean, and with
they've
Gibbs
got Ryan
signing,
Truex in the 18, and they're making him drive
true.
that 26. It's just
That's a fair point. But then also, I mean, you factor in Sammy Smith is there now. He is bringing big sponsorship money. I don't know how good he's going to be at this level. He's making another start this week at Pocono, so we'll see. But given the sponsorship, he's probably ahead of John Hunter Nemechek right now. And I know Mark's been saying this, where he would not be shocked, and I guess this was assuming Kyle and KBM were still intact under the Toyota pipeline, but if they are, let's say for a second Kyle does resign there, Corey Heim looks like he could be really good. So that's somebody else where Toyota's put a lot of time and money into in terms of developing, whereas John Hunter Nemechek just came over here because it was really Kyle's pick and they wanted to win races. That's someone else Toyota might, place over him. I haven't even mentioned Chandler Smith either. So there's a real chance that John Hunter Nemechek is like fourth or fifth on their list in terms of their, guys that are going to be pegged for a cup ride here in the future. So
could even be lower.
it could be. It really could be. So I think if I'm John Hunter, if Kyle keeps the truck team open and he goes to Ford or a Chevy team, you got to follow him. At least for the short term, that's probably your best move.
Well, I mean, there are one other thing I wanted to bring up, because I think it actually happened like right after we recorded last week, and I don't think we mentioned it in our review of Loudon, but Ty Dillon also out at the end of the year for Petty GMS.
Mhm.
Gregson being heavily linked to that car. I think no one really saw Ty Dillon being removed from the ride. I think mostly just because most of us expected he would be just safe, because they probably have some deal with RCR where they get their support for cheaper for having Ty Dillon in the car. But I mean, this could be it for Ty Dillon.
I know a lot of people are acting like he's going to get the 8 car. I don't think there's a chance in hell that happens.
The only way he gets the 8 car is if they kick Reddick out after this year and they put him there for a year. Ty Dillon's never had. He could have had opportunities before. They could have put him in, the 31, or I think that was just what they ran up until they ran the 8, and they never did. He was with Jermaine at the 13 the whole time, so I don't see that happening unless they make a last second decision and there's no one else available, and then they throw Ty Dillon in it. But I think this could be it for Ty Dillon's full-time career.
Yeah, at
least in the Cup Series, and I'd be surprised, honestly, even if he got anything in the Xfinity Series.
I don't see a ride for him in the Xfinity Series right now either.
I don't think they've ever truly believed in him, to be honest with you.
I can't blame him. Like, if you stack his stats up, he basically had all the same opportunities as Austin did in the Trucks and Xfinity Series, and Austin won 2 championships, and Ty barely won 2 races.
Ty's not doing himself any favors going out there driving desperate as he did this past weekend.
That was pretty bad.
Early. It is especially bad when you consider the one good thing that we've been able to say about Ty all year is he's finishing.
He kept it clean.
Yeah.
He kept it outside of the Clash, which, I mean, he made headlines and he did everything he could and almost moved on and would have if he didn't jump the restart. So I had no problem with it there. Had kept it clean basically all year. I don't remember any accident being his fault. He's been involved in some, but who hasn't? And then he goes out this weekend and you
just gotta hope that's a isolated incident.
Junk
it's not
some
gonna become a
cars.
trend.
I mean, I don't think I've seen an overcorrect that bad all year.
He was definitely driving extremely aggressively right there.
Yeah, that wasn't good.
On lap 4.
Yeah, not pick your spots. That definitely wasn't the time for that.
Unfortunately ended my guy's day, but You qualify back there. It's part of the game.
Also ended my Steve Lavender fantasy pick day.
Hey, I finally won one of those. First time in a while.
Yeah, my guy was Josh Balicki, so he probably would have finished back there anyways.
I've been in contention for the Underdog Championship. For those people out there who don't know what Random Fantasy is, the Underdog Championship is awarded to the person who earns the least amount of points that's done every race every year. So I've had some pretty bad luck, but got C-Bell last week, and that worked out pretty good.
Well, it sounds like that's going to screw you in that Underdog Championship then.
Yep.
You don't want to win in that situation.
Nope. I got a big buffer now.
Yeah. Well, speaking of winners, probably going to have some extra hardware to give out this weekend with the Truck Series regular season coming to an end at Pocono. More than likely, it's going to go to Zane Smith. But heading into the race, who are you guys looking at, and who do you think is going to win?
Well, first, for this being the first race of the rest of the, well, I guess the last week they couldn't have either. No Cup guys, but there are still a few names here that we don't see every week. Norm Benning trying to make the race, probably won't, just to be honest. I think one or two trucks that are going home. We have Austin Hill in the 7 for Spire, Ryan Preece, Max Gutierrez, and Todd Bodine, all on their usual rides. I could certainly see Ryan Preece winning, but he is not my pick to win. My pick is the same guy that's been the best all year and is, I think, literally 1 point away from winning the regular season championship. Maybe 2 points, actually. Zane Smith, plus 500. Finished 8th last year, led the second most laps, won stage 1. He's just been the best driver this year. I think if there were a number of drivers instead of Parker Kligerman ahead of him a couple weeks ago at Mid-Ohio, Zane Smith would have already locked up the regular season championship and have another win. So, ran real good last year. Is just everything he's done this year has just been better than last year. So, I'm picking Zane Smith.
No long shot this week?
Yeah, we'll get to the long shots after.
Right.
Let's go through our actual picks. So who do you got?
So, I like to kind of go where the money goes a lot of the time. Austin Hill's plus 600 this week. That Spire truck's obviously been pretty good. He's been having a pretty good year in the Xfinity Series. We know what he can do in the Truck Series, so I'm going to probably be looking at that this week. I just, hasn't been in the truck as often as, he obviously was when he was full-time, and I can't remember when his last start was, to be quite honest. But
I think it was just Daytona.
Yeah, I think Daytona.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
But, it just... that Spire truck has been a contender to win races, so let's go see it do another.
Not a bad one. Actually, I was literally torn between both of your guys' picks. And I am going to go with one of them. I'm going to go with Zane Smith here as well. He's running great. Yeah, there's no other way to put it. Truck's showing a lot of speed. Pocono, obviously, horsepower type track. I don't think that's going to be any problems there for him. I'm feeling a pretty dominant day. And honestly, I thought at Mid-Ohio he was going to have that dominant type day where he was just going to go out there and lead the whole race. And, I mean, he came close. Parker Kligerman was just that damn good, too. So, I don't think Kligerman's here. There's no Cup guys. I'm going to take Zane Smith to win the race. And, plus 500 for somebody that I think a lot of people feel pretty strongly about going into this race. It's pretty good odds. Surprisingly, not the favorite. John Hunter Nemechek is, and I don't know how you put him over. He did win here last year.
He did win here last year. He's been solid, not great, but solid, and he's a popular guy. So I mean, I not shocked to see it.
Mm-hmm. Long shots. Who you guys got?
I'm going with Ty Majeski, plus 1,500. He's been top 5 in 6 of the last 9 races, and of the value guys there, he's the one I think that has the chance to do the best. The Pocono's a difficult one in the trucks and the Xfinity Series. There's so much turnover in the series. They only race one time a year there, so it's not like there's a ton of experience to look back on some of these guys. But he's been so solid lately. Whereas, he's been right there, honestly, with Hocevar and Eckes as guys who are due to get a win this year, but I like his odds the most. So, Ty Majeski plus 1,500.
Yeah, it's definitely a pretty good pick there going into this race. My long shot this week is actually going to be Ben Rhodes. I'm surprised to see his odds at plus 2,500. I mean, I know he hasn't been the best of the best this year. It's just I don't know. I got a feeling that he's going to be pretty good this weekend. Just really solid driver, defending champion. We're kind of getting playoff times here. He's probably going to be turning that wick up just a little, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him go out there and try to, kind of reignite that consistency and speed that he's going to need to go make another push at the title.
Yeah, I'm going a bit out into left field on this one here. Over the last couple weeks leading up to Mid-Ohio, because he didn't do so good here, this driver looked like he was beginning to find a rhythm with his team. 3 straight top 10 finishes before Mid-Ohio, a 9th at Sonoma, a 9th at Knoxville, and a 7th at Nashville. They seem to be getting their stuff together, albeit a little too late for him to probably make the playoffs unless he gets a Hail Mary win. But at plus 4,000, I'm going to take a look at Tyler Ankrum. Again, a little bit out there in left field, but they do seem to be building some momentum. I do like what I've seen out of the team over the last couple weeks. Pocono, normally strategy could play a role here. I'm not so sure in the truck race, just given how short it is.
No, only 60 laps.
Yeah, only 60 laps, so I don't know if you're going to have any crazy strategy plays, but honestly, I don't really like anybody between, 15, 20,000. Ben Rhodes at 2,500 is good, but they just seem to really be backpedaling. And Ankrum, while they haven't shown race winning speed, they do look a lot better over the last 4 or 5 races than they did earlier in the year. So if you're looking for somebody who needs to win, they might go out there and try everything they can to get that win. Tyler Ankrum might be your guy. Plus 4,000, definitely worth a look come Saturday. All right, so taking a look at the driver props, head-to-head matchups, not a lot on there. What are some ones that you guys are looking at?
I like Majeski over Christian Eckes. I think Majeski has a good chance to beat Eckes anyway. Eckes had that streak a little bit earlier in the year where he was like 5 or 6 races in a row, the car that got passed, the last pass for the win effectively. Has cooled off a little bit. Majeski's been a little bit better as of late, and Majeski's even money compared to Christian Eckes at minus 130. So I like Majeski there.
I'm going to actually be looking at the only other matchup that's got somebody at even money this week for the trucks. I'm going to be taking Corey Heim over Ryan Preece at plus 100 compared to Ryan Preece's minus 130. Brandon just hit on it a little earlier. Heim's been really good this year, looking really good. Preece doesn't have as much to be racing for out there as some of these other guys. So I think that KBM could probably piece together a pretty good race with Heim this week, and Heim could probably outdo Preece.
Damn, you took mine. I was looking at the Heim one. Preece ran this race last year, and as great as he was at Nashville in that one race he did last year, and the second race he did at Pocono, well, he did get a top 10. Wasn't really up there. So, because I like the speed out of Corey Heim, that's also one that I probably would have went with. For mine, though, just to be different, give me Zane Smith over John Hunter Nemechek. Zane Smith minus 110 to John Hunter Nemechek's minus 120. I picked Zane to win the race, so you know the rules. I got to pick him in the head-to-head matchup. Pretty boring there, but that's what I'm going to be going with. Moving over to the fantasy teams, not a lot of laps in this race, so not a lot of chance to bank points in terms of laps led and fast laps. Probably looking for somebody that you think's just going to outright get a good finish. What are your teams looking like, guys?
I will say my team is definitely subject to change based on qualifying. It'll be at a premium here just because there are so few laps. With the caution laps, you figure we're going to probably run on stages alone almost 10% of the race under caution. So it's very likely to change based on qualifying, but I'm leading off with Zane Smith. I expect him to do pretty well here. Picked him to win. Second guy I took is Ryan Preece. He's just been so good this year. He scored at least 35 points in every race he's ran so far, and the only race that he had that was under 40 even was Charlotte, where he was late in the race in a position to win before contact with Carson Hocevar dropped him down to, I think, 13th place. Third place and fourth place, honestly, taking 2 guys for pretty similar reasons. First is Derek Kraus, 8,200. He scored at least 36 points in 6 of his last 8 races. The only races that he scored less than that were Texas and Sonoma. Texas, he was involved in a crash. Sonoma, I think he might have also been involved in a crash, but had issues either way. Finished in the late back 20s, so him at 8,200. And then Matt Crafton, for pretty similar-ish reasons, as I said, at 8,000. And for both of them, you expect them to do whatever they have to do to run good, get points, maybe even win. Crafton obviously is in a little bit better position, having 19 points over Kraus for that final spot, but also been pretty solid. He also has a lot of experience at Pocono. 4 top 10s in the last 6 races. In those 6 races he's ran, probably more than anyone else in the field has even ran at Pocono. And has also been pretty solid as of late outside of Mid-Ohio, where he was running decent before getting involved in a contact late in the race. Fifth guy I have is Todd Bodine, 6,700. He's just been pretty solid in most of his starts. 34 plus points in 3 of his 5 starts this year. And our last guy, the usual value pick here, Jesse Little, 4,900, scoring way more than basically everyone around him. And he's had at least 22 points in 6 of his 9 starts. So for 4,900, that's a lot of value there.
So this week I kind of went a little, I guess, weird with my team. I was kind of looking at the points per race this week. Because Pocono, it's short laps, like we said. I mean, there's going to be a whole lot going on, and probably will change based on qualifying, because there's not going to be a lot of time to make up positions. But I opened up the team this week with Carson Hocevar. I mean, the kid's been so close to winning that first race. I just have a feeling this could be the weekend that he finally goes and gets it done. So wanted to have him on the lineup because points from leading laps are going to be a premium this week, and I think he might be a guy that can go and do it. After that, I had Stuart Friesen. Friesen has had a pretty inconsistent season, but has been putting up pretty decent numbers despite that. For inconsistent for his standards, I should say. I think a lot of people viewed him as a title contender coming into the year, and he hasn't looked quite up to snuff for that, but he's definitely been fairly competitive all year long, and hoping to reap the benefits of that this weekend. After that, I have Ben Rhodes. Like I said, I think that team's going to turn up the wick this weekend. They need to, quite frankly, because they haven't looked good enough to compete. So if they don't do it this weekend, it's going to be hard to do it come playoffs time. So it's kind of do or die. After that, I started to get more into the value. Matt Crafton, Marky already hit on it. I mean, that team's going to be doing everything they can this weekend. Driver's proven. It's definitely on the back 9 of the career at this point, but I think he's still got a little bit of juice left in the tank, so it'll be fun to go watch him drive with all he's got left in him, really. I mean, Matt Crafton could be done any year now, so I think he's definitely going to be driving with a little bit of desperation, which is a good thing in these situations. Dropping from there, I have Colby Howard this week. Colby Howard has been fairly consistently decent in his starts this year. I think probably only 1 top 10 out of the driver so far this year, but he's pretty much typically always running around that 15th type range. So don't see any reason that'll change this week, and I think he'll be able to put up a decent numbers day for that reason. And then I rounded off my team with the Onion. Todd Bodine has been good. He's been surprisingly good given the time removed from the sport and his age. So I think as long as they keep his salary down, it's kind of hard for me not to pick Todd Bodine.
I know my team is pretty much like a combination of both of yours. Starting at the bottom here, Jesse Little, 4,900. Again, if they're going to keep giving him that price point, you have to go with him. Normally keeps the car clean, averaging about 24 points. You're not getting that out of anybody else that low in terms of salary. Next up, also went with Todd Bodine. Experienced driver, has actually been kind of impressive given his age and the races he's run this year, averaging about 31.5 points. So other solid pick there, 6,700. Can't go wrong with that at such a low salary. I also went with Colby Howard, coming off of a top 10 at Mid-Ohio. If he doesn't have any issues, Jeremy's right. Kind of keeps that car in that, 15th place range, give or take a couple spots. So 7,200, another solid play there. Then we're moving up a little bit. I got Carson Hocevar at 9,800. Kid's been fast all year. Don't know if this is going to be the week, but I expect another solid run out of him. Next up, 10,200, Austin Hill. Only a second start in the truck series this year, but he's been pretty solid in the Xfinity series. The Spire truck, when it's been on the track, has showed top 10 speed pretty much every race. Even when Rajah Caruth, who's never done a truck race, has been in it. So I like the pick. I'm going to say Austin Hill's probably going to get a top 10 on Saturday, so pretty solid pick there. Salary, a bit high, but yeah, you got to do what you got to do. And then rounding out the team is Zane Smith. I'm feeling like this is going to be Zane Smith's weekend. I know I said that Mid-Ohio as well. It's pretty close. Drove through the field after starting 13th, finished second, put on a great show with Parker Kligerman. I just don't have any real faith in the KBM trucks right now in terms of just being able to put a whole race together. So they're completely off the team. We're going to roll with Zane Smith, and hopefully that's going to make somebody some money comes Saturday. Now, going over to the Xfinity Series, it's a doubleheader on Saturday. Trucks and Xfinity both going to be at Pocono. I know there are a couple of Cup guys in this race. Cole Custer being one, with Joe Graff Jr. having to step aside. So that's going to be interesting. Normally when Cole Custer's driving for this team in the Xfinity Series, it's a Stewart-Haas prepped car. Given this was on such late notice, I'm not so sure. So it's going to be interesting to see what Cole Custer has. He is listed as a pretty heavy favorite here at plus 450, or not pretty heavy. He's tied with Ty Gibbs at plus 450. But not knowing what's going to be under him, I'm going to stay away from him for right now. That might be somebody you want to bet on after practice and qualifying, but by then, if it turns out he has a good car, that's probably going to go to, plus 300, plus 250, somewhere in that range. And then Ricky Stenhouse Jr. making a return to the Xfinity Series, probably because Tyler Reddick decided to not drive Chevys in 2024. So I'm assuming this was going to be a Tyler Reddick race. It did sound like it was going to be a Tyler Reddick race, and Chevy, RCR, probably both decided to pull the plug on that. Interesting to go with Ricky Stenhouse Jr., though, over a Ty Dillon or an Austin Dillon.
Yeah, Tyler Reddick was on the driver portal until till the entry list came out, at which point it was changed to Ricky Stenhouse Jr. A couple other guys, too, that we aren't used to seeing. Not necessarily that would be huge threats to win, but could be potential plays. Sammy Smith in the 18, Santino Ferrucci in the 26 for his first start of the year, and Rajah Caruth and Sage Karam in the Alpha Prime racing cars.
So those are some of the different faces that we'll be seeing. Who is going to be the face that you think is going to be in victory lane?
I went with Josh Berry here. Plus 700, finished, I believe, ninth. Yes, ninth in this race last year for Jordan Anderson. One of his better runs with them. And that equipment, we knew it last year, and we still know it this year, is not anywhere near what JRM equipment is. So that Josh Berry was able to get that solid finish last year speaks a lot to it. He's been good, was running good last week until his incident with Sheldon Creed. And I think he's primed to get another victory here.
Yeah, it's going to be a interesting race up front. I mean, Cole Custer is pretty hard to not pick in these Xfinity starts, and we talk about how horrible he's been in Cup, but he's consistently really good in this race car. So, I mean, I think I'm definitely going to have to lean with Cole this weekend. Be at the track this weekend. Excited to get back out there. Custer, I'm a Stewart-Haas guy, so hopefully maybe I can go watch a little bit of a turning point and get some momentum back going for the young driver.
Guys, I'm doing it. I'm going with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. That's my pick to win the race. Very good car that he's going to be in. Has won a race this year with Tyler Reddick in it. Really good in these Xfinity cars. He's only done, I think, 2 races in the Xfinity Series since he won back-to-back championships, but they're relatively the same. And I think right now, even when he was doing those races in the past, he had a lot more Cup guys in there. I think the playing field's a little bit easier than he's used to in these cars, as good as the Xfinity Series is now. Plus 1,200. He knows how to work these cars, and again, the team's pretty good. So could qualify as a dark horse pick, but I'm making him my actual pick. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in an opportunity race, I feel like, given the equipment, going to victory lane at Pocono.
I considered both of those guys. Custer, I just same thing Brandon brought up earlier. I'm just concerned in terms of how much Stuart Haas prep this car has. I probably wouldn't be comfortable betting on him because I think if he qualifies on the pole, he'll probably go up higher. There's a good chance he winds up on some fantasy teams depending on how he practices to qualify. And the Stenhouse was also because the equipment's good. Tyler Reddick's also very good and still took a lot to win that race. It wasn't like he dominated it or anything. So I don't know if the equipment's quite like I don't think it's as good as certainly as even JRM equipment. Stenhouse obviously good, but I don't know if he'll quite be able to plow the win. My deep value guy I took my value pick here was actually Riley Herbst at plus 4,000. Looking at it, Ford has won 4 of 6 races here. They've been strong. Aren't a lot of Fords in the field. Riley Herbst also ran decent in his starts here, top 10 in his first race here, and was running decent last year before being involved in a crash. And just there aren't a lot of guys I really like at that plus 1,500 and lower mark. And I think Herbst is definitely worth a shot at 4,000.
Yeah, I feel kind of dirty here picking my long shot as somebody's favorite, but I was already planning on going with Ricky going into the segment, so dude bought me dinner once, so the least I can do is throw him a bone at this.
Yeah, not quite as deep as we usually look, being a plus 1,200,
Yeah,
but it's close.
and situationally as well. I mean, kind of just got thrown into the car. Hasn't been prepping for this race, so new team for him, gonna be new communication, achieve different spotter than he used to. So definitely a lot of stuff being kind of stacked against him this weekend, but I think he's got a shot at overcoming it.
So I was going to go with Riley Herbst again as my long shot because that's just kind of my thing at this point. I'm going to keep going with him until he wins, but I'll let you have him. I'll let you have him this week. I'm going to go with Sammy Smith plus 2,000. I get why he's at plus 2,000. He is in the 18 car, but given that this is, I believe, only his second career start, I feel like he should be further down. But the kid's fast. Toyota's high on him, and he's in the 18 car. So plus 2,000, well, maybe I'd like it a little bit lower. It's still pretty good odds for somebody that's going to have a race-winning, car underneath them. So I'm going to go with that. I was thinking about Sheldon Creed, but he had such a good run at New Hampshire. Something's going to happen to him at Pocono. So we'll stay away from that one for 1 week anyway.
And one time he has a good run, everybody wants to come at his throat.
True for something I'm not sure it was. Yeah, I'm sitting. We were talking about that on the last episode, and I'm still scratching my head, going, man, I don't really think that was his fault, but I'm not a race car driver, so what do I know? Moving over to the driver props, a lot more on the table here. Let's go through best one that you guys see that you're going to have your eye on for the race.
Herbst over Hemrick. Herbst plus 170 to Daniel Hemrick minus 200. This feels like a pretty easy play there. I think Herbst, he might just be behind Hemrick in points now. They're pretty close, but I don't think it's crazy to argue that Herbst has ran as good, if not better, than Hemrick. So at those odds, easy play for me.
All right. Leaving me scrambling here, and all the odds just locked. Am I the only one seeing this?
Yeah, I think that's just a you thing.
Okay, so I don't really know what I'm looking at here odds-wise. On my screen, they just all locked. I'm refreshing the page, and they are still locked. But I was gonna go with Gregson and Stenhouse. I picked Stenhouse as the dark horse into this race. Gregson's got a lot of enemies out there right now. Nobody's gonna be making anything easy on him, so I'll take Ricky over Gregson in a situation which I can almost guarantee Ricky is probably the underdog without seeing the odds.
Yeah,
he is.
Stenhouse was plus 120. Gregson's minus 140.
All right. Now you guys are both leaving me scrambling because those are ones I was looking at. think I'll take a look at. Give me AJ Allmendinger over Sam Mayer. This one, Sam Mayer has the better equipment, but consistency has been a problem with him. Pocono's a difficult track. I think AJ's probably going to be able to keep the car clean. I don't think he's going to clear himself and cause a wreck this week like he did at New Hampshire. It also helps in this matchup. AJ is even money at plus 100. He is the underdog to Sam Mayer at minus 120. So I'll take the experience and, just the driver who's having the outright more consistent season right now in AJ Allmendinger. Going over to the fantasy teams, I know I really like mine. I'll save mine for last, but who do you guys have penciled in for your teams in the Xfinity race on Saturday?
I do, and I do actually have Cole Custer here just because if I decide I don't like him, I can move him. But I do have him here. He has been, he's very good in the Xfinity cars, but also been pretty good at Pocono. 3 top 10s in his 3 starts here, including 2 top 5s and a win. Like I said, I do have some concern over how the car will be, so I might make an audible and remove him from the lineup. So it's 10,100 for him. Then I have Josh Berry 9,900. Picked him to win. Think he's gonna have a chance to run real well here. Ricky Stenhouse at 9,700. For all the same reasons everyone else has already said. He's good in these cars. The team is not bad. I don't think they're necessarily as good as JRM, but I think he's good enough to overcome some of that gap. Fourth guy I have is actually Sheldon Creed at 8,000. Normally he does kind of 1 step forward, 2 steps back, but last week was his first top 5. So maybe this will be the beginning of his recovery. Whether or not it'll be enough, we will find out in a couple months. In the truck series, he does have 2/3 in 3 races here. In the other race, he had a fuel pump issue. So he was good here in the truck series, which is really the only comparable thing we have for him. Rounding out the team, I have Myatt Snyder, 6,800. I know he was in better equipment, but this is one of his better tracks in his RCR starts. Finished 4th and 10th here, and they've scored 23 plus points in 5 of the last 7 races. So they've been a bit of an uptick. And then Raja Cruz, 5,200. For that equipment, it's just incredibly cheap. He was running decent at Dover before. I think they had a parts failure. I can't remember for sure. And he will also have some warm up already from running the ARCA race on Friday. So he won't even be completely fresh and new to this track. He will have some laps here.
So I opened up my team this weekend with the guy I picked to win the race with Cole Custer. Dude dominates these Xfinity races when the car is right, and I think the car will be fine. I mean, yes, it's short notice, but SHR has an Xfinity program. They have cars. I mean, I think that it'll be a pretty good piece this weekend for them. Dropping after that, I have Stenhouse, which is the long shot I picked. Ricky is an experienced Cup veteran now, and was a pretty damn good Xfinity driver back when he was a young kid and running the series. So, equipment's decent. I think that Ricky is still immensely talented race car driver. I see no reason he can't go out there and put together a really good run. Price point might be a little bit high, if I'm being quite honest, given the situation, but I still think it's worth taking a flyer on him, at least on a few lineups this week. Dropping down from that, I have Riley Herbst. Riley Herbst, we keep harping on. He's going to win a race eventually. It's a matter of when, not if, at this point, which is surprising. He's taken a big turn. He's matured a ton as a race car driver, and at this point, I'm just even. He's a safe pick now. I mean, he'll go get you a good run and give you good points, even if it isn't a race winning type day. After that, I have Santino Ferrucci. First start in a while in this NASCAR stuff, but Ferrucci is a very, very talented race car driver. He's shown it all across the world in different disciplines of racing. And I see no reason that, given the same kind of equipment this weekend, he can't put together a pretty good run. That's a car where I'm probably hoping he'll qualify a little poorly, because I think he'll definitely get better as the day goes on throughout the race. Rounding out my team, I have Brandon Brown and Alex LeBay, both kind of the same theory there. Both guys that put together pretty solid runs in that 7,000 to high 6,000 price range, and can get up there and contend for top 15 some weeks. And when they don't, they still run around 20th. So it's I feel 2 pretty safe picks there.
All right. Looking over at my team, we're starting out with Patrick Emmerling. Kind of like Jesse Little right now. For the price point, he's averaging 25.7 points a race. So at 4,900, there's really not anybody down there that I feel like you could possibly get that type of point turnout from. So we're going with Emmerling 4,900 to start the team off. Next, I also have Rajah Karuf. Again, given the equipment, he's going to have track time already, being in the ARCA race, 5,200. Another one that's really hard to get away from. Luckily with that, given I have two people right there out of the gate that are under 5,500. That really leaves me with a lot of salary to play with. So this team is really top loaded. We have AJ Allmendinger at 9,300. I think he's going to have a solid day. Should be able to keep the car clean. Definitely expecting a top 10, maybe even a top 5 run out of the Dinger. Next up, Josh Berry, or actually Stenhouse first at 9,700, which that's my pick to win the race anyways. I think he's going to have a really strong day. Josh Berry next at 9,900. Those JRM cars really, really fast right now. Berry seems like he's kind of hot and cold in terms of just, keeping the car clean and having issues. That's probably why he's a little bit further back in points compared to, Gregson and Allgaier. But I think Berry's going to have a little bit of a bounce back after getting in that wreck at New Hampshire, and he'll probably make up for it and have a pretty strong day. And then rounding out the team, I have the guy that won at New Hampshire, Justin Allgaier, probably the hottest driver in the series right now. Honestly, it wouldn't be shocked if he found a way to get to victory lane. He has a win at Indianapolis, which, I think a lot of people that do follow the sport know that's a track that you kind of take and compare notes with. So Allgaier at Pocono, while maybe not his best track on the schedule, JRM really, really good right now. They've won at a couple tracks that they haven't before already this year. So while he isn't my pick to win, I would not be shocked one bit if Justin Allgaier ended up back in victory lane at the end of Saturday. Moving over to the Cup Series, and it's going to be a very interesting race there. I know all eyes are probably going to be on Kyle Busch with all the news that's been flying around. Probably not my pick to win, although in terms of betting odds, he is a little bit up there, but I guess that's what happens when you're Kyle Busch. He is actually the favorite at plus 700. Kyle Larson, who almost won this race last year, one of the races here last year. Pocono still having 2 dates, being that it was a doubleheader race at plus 800. This is a race where, personally, I'm going to take a look at the Toyotas. Maybe not my pick to win, but I'd probably keep an eye on Denny Hamlin and Martin Truex Jr., who have a lot of success here. Truex coming off of his best race of the year, and Hamlin, while they're still probably not where they want to be, has definitely showed a lot of improvement from when we were writing him off at the beginning of the season. But that being said, who are you guys looking at to win the race on Sunday?
I'm going with Ryan Blaney at plus 1,000. Got his first career win here among tracks that are active, where we've raced more than twice. This is his fourth best track, and just keep going on our march towards 16 winners.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at Kevin Harvick here. It's a track that he's found some pretty good success at, given recent years even. So, kind of embracing the chaos factor here. I want to see as many winners as we can get. I want to see that playoffs really get jumbled up and kind of make NASCAR look a little dumb. So, definitely think that he is the driver best positioned to make that happen, and I can go home with a smile.
I was really thinking about going with one of the Toyotas. Denny Hamlin and Martin Truex Jr. are definitely on my radar. I'm going to keep the pattern going, which would be first, second. He's going to win again. Chase Elliott on Sunday, plus 800. Keep that streak going between alternating between positions 1 and 2. That's really it. I think the smarter pick might be one of the Toyotas, but my gut, and I will point. This is definitely a gut pick here more than anything. Chase Elliott, my guy to win the race on Sunday. Looking at the long shots, I think there's actually some pretty good value here deep in the pack. What are you guys looking at?
I'm going with Bubba Wallace, plus 3,000. He finished top 5 here last year. Last week had what I think could pretty easily be argued as his best overall career run. And both the Pocono races last year were top 6 in terms of driver rating races for him and that team last year. Also, would continue on our march towards 16 plus winners. And I just think at plus 3,000, that's some pretty good value with some of the speed we know is in that car and that they've shown lately.
So, Marky kind of took my guy out from under me here, so I'm gonna just embrace the chaos factor. There's a little bit of a chance of weather in the forecast this weekend, so Todd Gilliland's gonna be leading the race when some lightning's gonna come rolling through, and then it's gonna downpour, and we're gonna get that 38 car in victory lane.
I mean, I guess from a value standpoint, if you're going to go just scorched earth and people stealing playoff spots, Gilliland is a nice, cool plus 100,000. So, I mean, why not? $1 would get you $1,000 on that bet. If you think something like that could happen, and it has happened at Pocono before with a front row car leading the way, well, that's where Chris Buescher got his win when the fog rolled in. I guess why the hell not? I can't fault you with that. Mine, it's more towards like Marky's pick, people that have been having good runs as of late. Daniel Suarez, that's the guy for me, plus 3,000. Has had a lot of success at Pocono in the past, driving for Stuart Haas and Joe Gibbs Racing. Got his first career pole here, had a second place finish in that same race. Has a couple of other top 10 finishes along the way. He did finish 13th and 15th in the 2 races here last year driving for Trackhouse, and obviously Trackhouse a lot better now than what they were last year. So plus 3,000, give me Daniel Suarez. I think he's going to have a strong run. Had a real quiet day at New Hampshire, ended up with a top 10. Pretty good odds. So that's one of the guys I like deeper in the pack. I got to also agree with Marky, though. The Bubba Wallace one, 2311 has shown a lot of speed. That was like the first full race that specific team in that organization put together last week at New Hampshire. So Bubba at plus 3,000, who did get a top 5 here last year, also not a bad pick either. All right, going over to the driver props. Group winners. Group A, we have Kyle Busch plus 240, Denny Hamlin plus 270, Kyle Larson plus 270, and Chase Elliott at plus 270.
I am going with Denny Hamlin. Is that the one you said? I don't remember.
Yeah, it was Group A.
Okay, yeah. Denny Hamlin. I mean, is one of, not only is he one of the best active, he's just one of the best all time at this track too. And with him, Larson, and Elliott at the best paying odds in this group, I just like Denny more than them. It's been a really weird year for Denny. But they still have speed, and I think he could certainly prevail in this group.
Yeah, so Mark pretty much took word for word where I was going to go with this one. Denny Hamlin is... this is probably... I actually shouldn't even say probably. This is the best track of his career for him. So he's definitely been showing a lot of speed recently. Toyota's been looking really good every time we head to the ovals recently. I think that might continue this weekend. So Denny Hamlin's a pretty good pick in this group.
Hey, I picked Chase to win the race. Keep the pattern going. We're going Chase Elliott here in the group as well, plus 270. Kind of locked in by it, but I feel pretty confident with it. Going over to Group B, Ryan Blaney plus 260, Kevin Harvick plus 260. Actually, you know what? They're just all plus 260. Blaney, Harvick, Chastain, Martin Truex Jr. Who's your pick?
Well, I picked Blaney to win the race, so
I think Jeremy picked Kevin Harvick to win the race, right?
Yes, I did. So
all
right.
Rules. All right. Well, I guess I'm the only one here going with an actual pick that I'm not already locked into. Give me Martin Truex Jr. coming off of his best run of the season. I like the Toyotas in general more than the Fords right now. So give me Truex at plus 260 there for Group B. Group C. definitely don't like the favorite on this one. That's William Byron at plus 190, Joey Logano and last week's winner Christopher Bell at plus 270, and rounding out this foursome is Alex Bowman at plus 350.
I'm taking Christopher Bell here. He's been one of, if not the best Toyotas. He's had a lot of momentum, obviously just won. Everyone else in this group scares me because they could run 15th all day, and at this point you wouldn't bat an eye. So they could also go out and win the race, just to be honest. So Christopher Bell just seems like the safest pick, is not the best paying pick, but also not the worst paying pick. So I'm taking Christopher Bell.
Yeah, the Grim Reaper already put the dagger in Pocono. We're just waiting for him to twist the knife at this point. So I'll just throw Bowman a bone here. He's got the highest odds here. Won here last year. Looked pretty good. Team really, really needs a good run. So why not?
I mean, yeah, he won and they lost the date.
Yep. No, that's what I'm saying. He put the dagger in there already. We just got to wait for him to twist the knife now at this point.
Well, he'll only be twisting if he wins, and even if he wins this group, I don't think we're going to see Alex Bowman in victory lane.
No, I don't either.
I'm with Mark. Give me Christopher Bell plus 270. I don't really have any faith in William Byron or Alex Bowman right now to go out there and contend for a top 5, because that's probably what you're going to need to beat Christopher Bell right now. Joey Logano, very hot and cold. I don't know what I'm going to get with him, even though I feel more confident it'll be better than Bowman or Byron right now. Bell's just the safest pick in my opinion here, so give me Christopher Bell. Last group, Group D, we have Kurt Busch plus 200, Tyler Reddick at what might as well be plus 26 million. It is plus 260 for those listening right now if you do want to just lose your money on that. Daniel Suarez at plus 300 and Chase Briscoe at plus 300. Who are you guys looking at?
I like Suarez a lot, but I did go with Kurt Busch here. He's has success here, has I believe 2 wins here. Actually 3 wins here. Was already mentioned with Bubba, this was one of 23XI's best tracks last year. Kurt Busch also had a really good race last week. Wound up finishing top 10 even with a strategy that didn't really work out. So I'm taking Kurt Busch.
How are you not going to go with my amigo Daniel Suarez? One of the best tracks throughout his Cup career. Trackhouse has been on fire this year. Suarez has been a little hit or miss. I think that team's definitely due for a good week this week. Almost won his first career race here when he was still driving for Gibbs. Definitely just a very good track for Suarez. Gets a little more of that road racing element kind of put into an oval compared to any other track we really go to, with 3 very unique and distinct different corners. I think Suarez could put together a really solid run and definitely class of this group.
Yeah, I already have him as my dark horse pick, so I'm also going to go with Daniel Suarez here. Kurt's not a bad pick, given the experience he's had here. The team's really fast right now. It's definitely someone to keep an eye on. Briscoe, kind of like the other guys from Group C, where you just don't know what you're going to get with him. He could be really fast. He could have problems. He could do something that throws away a good finish, too. The only one I definitely don't want to go with is Tyler Reddick right now. I don't know what to make of that situation. It's not going to shock me if Richard and the rest of the guys at RCR don't put in 100% effort, just given what happened there and depending on how they're feeling about the situation. I don't know if betting Tyler Reddick on anything right now is safe. So that leaves Daniel Suarez, and again, I think he's going to have a good run. Pocono has been one of his better tracks, and with the same team that wasn't as good last year, he put together a pretty damn good run. So we'll go with Suarez for Group D, and that's going to wrap up the group picks. Moving over to the fantasy lineups, I think a lot of guys here obviously are going to be good plays, and the Cup Series still has a couple of hidden gems deep down in the salary cap area here. So what are you guys looking at for the race on Sunday in terms of fantasy?
I'm leading off with Martin Truex Jr., 10,300. It was already talked about, but he's coming off of the best race of his season. This is a really good track for him. Multiple wins here, and I just think he'll continue the momentum. Second, Ryan Blaney, 9,400. Picked him to win. Expect him to run good. Kevin Harvick, 9,000. Jeremy picked him. This is one of his best tracks. In the last 10 races, he averages a 5.5 average finish. Next closest is 7th. And while obviously Kevin Harvick is not the same driver he was earlier in these last 10 races here, 9,000. And with his recent speed, the value's still there. 4th, I have Bubba at 7,500. If he runs even remotely close to what he did last week, it's easy play here. Then I have Brad Keselowski, 7,300. Also has wins here. He does have, obviously, not the same equipment, but does have 8 top 10s here in the last 10 races. His third most. We saw him do really well at Loudon, which is one of his better tracks. I think we could see the same thing here at Pocono, one of his better tracks. And finally, Michael McDowell, 6,500. Even though they had a pretty, straight up awful race, honestly, last week, still great value. This was one of the 4 non-plate and non-road course tracks that he had a top 10 in before the season. And so I would not be surprised to see him go out and get a top 10 here, or even just a top 15 at 6,500 is well worth the price.
So we're heading into this weekend. It's the M&M's Fan Appreciation 400. This is Mars Corporation's home racetrack, if you will. So I led off my team with Kyle Busch this week. I think he's definitely going to be trying to go out there, and obviously a bunch of Mars people are going to be at the track. He's had a very long and great relationship with the company. I think he's going to be driving with a little extra passion this weekend, trying to get those guys, one last good finish with them all at the track. So I think and Toyota's been showing some really recently great speed. Won here last year with a broken race car. So I think Kyle's a pretty good pick going into this weekend. After that, I have Harvick. I picked him to win. Already went over it. He's very good at Pocono. Speed's been looking better recently. If he's going to get one done, this is definitely a track to do it. After that, I dipped down to 8,100 with Alex Bowman. Won here last year. Team's not looked the best recently, which is why you get the salary at 8,100, but it's a Hendrick Motorsports car at a cheap price, and I don't think they're going to unload that well, so I think he's probably going to qualify pretty far back there, and maybe this time around, Ives can get the car a little better, and he'll get you some good passing points throughout the day. Dropping down from there, I have Daniel Suarez at 7,900. Already went over it. Very good at Pocono. Trackhouse is on fire, having the best season of his career. Definitely could see him going out there and putting together another one of those really great runs that he's shown flashes of throughout the year. Then I have Bubba. Bubba's coming off the best run of his career, I think, which is pretty. I think most people would agree with that. I know he has to win at Dega, but I don't think we've seen Bubba put together a race quite as well as New Hampshire was last week, and he's looked decent at Pocono in the past. I think Hamlin is a great here, like one of the best ever here, so definitely got some good tips coming in from the team owner, probably how to get around this place, so hopefully that'll help them put together a better run. And then finishing off the team, I have Stenhouse at 6,600. Gonna have a extra race this weekend of experience over most of these guys, and I think with a driver like him, that could actually make quite a big difference and give him a little boost compared to where he would normally run.
All right, so looking at my team, we're going to start out here. Chris Buescher, 6,800. Going to be honest, this was kind of the best of what I had to work with after mapping out the rest of the team. Buescher, I did have him on a lot of teams at New Hampshire. I was expecting a good run. Kind of let me down, especially with how Brad ran. But we're gonna throw him back in there. We're gonna see if he could bounce back at Pocono. Next up, Austin Cindric, 7,200. Not the greatest day at New Hampshire, but he did rally to finish 13th. Again, I feel like with how he's been running the last month and a half, he probably should be a little bit higher in salary. Has had some success here in the Xfinity Series. I believe he has a win here. 7,200, I think that's pretty solid for how he's been running, so we're going to give him the nod, throw him on the team. Next one up is actually one that I had circled. That's Eric Jones. Before last year, so when he was driving the 20 for Joe Gibbs and the 77 for Furniture Row, in races where he did not have an accident, so clean race, his worst finish was 8th. 3rd, 8th, 5th, 3rd, 2nd, 3rd. So he has a really good track record here. Did take a little bit of a dip last year, but the 43 team's a lot better this year. So kind of like Suarez, he has a really good track record at this track. the equipment is definitely better than when he was in the last time we were here. Eric Jones, 7,600. I think he's going to have a pretty strong day. Speaking of Daniel Suarez, he's also on my team, my dark horse pick. I picked him in the group. We're going to have him on the fantasy team, 7,900. That might be a steal. The only downside to him is that if they qualify good, he might not be able to optimize the points, but if they have any issue in qualifying and he starts mid to back of the field, I think that's a must play at that price. At 10,100, we're going with Chase Elliott, who I did pick to win the race. Even if it is dumb to just go with your gut here, Chase has had his ups and downs at Pocono, but I think it's a pretty solid track for him. He's come close to winning here before. I think he's going to keep that streak going, so we're going to play him. And rounding out my team at 10,300, I'm going Martin Truex Jr. He's probably the one that if I wasn't going to go with Chase for this race, that's probably my next guy. And Truex does have a lot of success here at Pocono. Obviously, probably one of his wins being like the turning point of his career when he got that win with Furniture Row back in 2015. That's really what started his climb to what he's become now. So very good track for Truex. I think he's going to have a good day. Maybe he could even get the win. So it's going to be interesting to see what he could do on Sunday. It's going to be very interesting to see what all these guys are going to be able to do on Sunday. But that's going to wrap up the fantasy portion. Any final thoughts from you guys?
Nope.
Nothing this week.
All right, then. Well, I think we got covered a lot. I think we have some good picks out there. Let's hope that they go just as well as last week's did, because we had a pretty good week last week, and it's always good for the bank account, too. So until next time, guys, thanks for listening to the Bernie Breakdown, and we will be back after what I hope is another very exciting weekend of NASCAR action from Pocono. Brandon Monroe here. Thanks for listening to the Bernie Breakdown. Remember to keep listening to us on your favorite podcasting platform. And remember to follow us at Bernie Breakdown on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and all of our other social media platforms.